there's a reminder of an age-old story. It's a story of the renowned samurai who was walking down the road when he encountered an old monk. Now he accosted the old monk and said to him, "I'm a great and famous samurai, and I've been on the battlefield for many decades. But tell me, old man, what is heaven and what is hell?" Now the old monk looked the samurai up and down and said, "You, a samurai? You look more like a peasant to me." And blood rose up into the samurai's eyes, and he took out his sword, and he was just about to run through the old monk when he met the old monk's eyes that were looking at him benignly. The old monk said, "That is hell." Now as the samurai looked into the old monk's eyes, he realized that this old man was willing to die to give him an answer to his question. So the samurai's eyes filled with tears, and he fell down on his knees in front of the old monk. The old monk, gently raising him up, said, "And that's heaven." And then there's the story of a young man who was born as the son of a very great teacher and master of the age. From the earliest age, he sat on his father's knee and listened to the teachings, was present when he was giving out barakah. So this young man was imbued with the wisdom of his father, and it was known that there was not a village or a town in which there was not a teacher who had come under the tutelage of his famous father. But one night the young man had a dream, and in that dream, accompanied by his fathers, he went to a meeting of all the great mystics and sages. But when they arrived at the forum, his father was admitted, and he was left outside. In the morning, feeling very embarrassed and abashed by this, he went to his father and told him the dream. And his father said to him, "This is because you have not yet learned discipleship." Now the son went away to think about this, and he pondered on the recognition that there had been great sages and teachers who had come to his father's door, and each of them had bowed before his father. So what better master could he find than his own father to become a disciple of? So he went to his father and said, "Father, but you must be my master and teacher. There is none greater than you." His father said to him, "It is not I. You must find another." So the son asked, "Well, to whom should I go?" And his father said, "Go to such and such a man." Now the son knew this man, knew him to be a lonely, lowly peasant coming from a farm in a far distant and remote area. Yes, it was known that this peasant had been under his father's tutelage and gone back to his village and become a teacher of other peasants. But, obeying what his father said, the son reluctantly set out on foot to find this man. Now, as it happened, when he approached the place in which the peasant teacher was living, the peasant teacher was himself riding his horse between one farm and another, and encountered the young man on the road. When they met, the young man bowed, and the peasant farmer looked down at him and said, "Not enough." So the young man bowed lower to the knees of the peasant riding on his horse. The peasant teacher looked at him and said, "Not enough." So the young man bowed lower to the haunches of the horse. Peasant teacher said, "Not enough." The young man bent down to the horse's hooves. The peasant teacher said, "Not enough," till the young man got down on his knees and put his head on the ground. The peasant teacher looked down and said to the young man, "It is done. Now you can go back from whence you came. No teaching, no disciplines, no baraka, no transmission." But the young man went back from whence he came and was admitted to the forum of the mystics and the great sages. All of us, each of us, have been brought to our knees, had our heads pushed to the ground. We know what it's like to be humbled. But the question that's asked of us right now is, what is the difference between being humbled and being humble? What is the difference between being brought to our knees, cut off from the knees, humbled by life, and being humble?
I think being humble just rises out of you, while somebody else making you humble, it's forced from the outside.
Absolutely, we know the difference very clearly. And how is the meaning of this story for us when in the beginning of the story the Father says, it's because you have not yet learned discipleship. Where does that place us now? Where we have nothing to be a disciple of. What's the meaning of this story? Besides answering the question that's been asked, what is the difference between being humbled and being humble? What's the deep meaning of this story for us?
To become humble, you need to be humble first. You need to become aware of what's happening. You can't become humble until you're humbled. That's my
Experience.
From that story, it feels like the discipleship part of it is that I can always learn something from someone, somewhere. I need to be teachable, and then the humility, voluntarily being humble, is allowing yourself to be available to be taught and allowing yourself to be able to learn lessons, even if it's difficult. And whereas when you're humble, when you're brought to your knees, kind of thing, you end up being humble because then you actually have to look back and go, well, that wasn't quite accurate, was it? You know, so you learn the lesson in arrears, in a way. So it's, I see it a bit like that. Yeah.
So how does that relate to our relationship with life now and the difference that we can clearly discern from being humbled and being humble? It brings us back to that question that's been asked so often. What is your relationship with life now? We no longer have weapons, we no longer have shields, we're no longer calling life an arena, calling ourselves a samurai or a warrior.
That stories there is the relationship is the essence.
Right. So there's no competitiveness here. So how would we translate humble into where we find ourselves now, looking directly at our relationship with life, different to what it was when we were in the arena, being a combatant, competing with
Accepting everything as it is and accepting everyone as they are and flowing with it.
Uh-huh.
Something along those lines.
Right.
Allowing.
something about receiving, always being in reception, instead of feeling that there is something given from
Yes.
this place.
Okay. Yes.
Like being humbled is the journey, and being humble is the destination.
So translate
And
humble.
and the discipleship doesn't need a particular discipline. It's a awareness in the self of when you're not in discipleship,
Okay.
and the rebalancing that awareness.
To me, it's just a lack of neediness. When you're humble, you're happy with nothing, and you don't have attachments to you.
No.
You're not enslaved to it anymore.
No.
And you only learn that from losing everything, that somehow you're still here, you're still okay, everything's gone wrong, but somehow you're still here and you're making it through.